So if you want to be cited in relevant prompts that relate to your products and services, then you need to be featured in the media.
Every 6 seconds, and two brands brought back from the dead. Those are two numbers and facts associated with my guest today. Every 6 seconds, that's how often Featured connects a subject matter expert with a publisher. We're going to talk more about that here in a second. And then two brands brought back from the dead: Hero, discontinued and revived, and Connectively, shut down by Cision in late 2024, then revived. Hey everyone, welcome to the Boulder SEO Marketing Podcast. I'm Chris Raulf, an AI SEO expert, the founder of Boulder SEO Marketing, or BSM, where we help local service businesses get leads and sales with our SEO, content marketing, and generative engine optimization solutions. My guest today is Brett Farmiloe, founder and CEO of Featured. Brett was on my AI SEO Insider podcast back in February, and I had to have him back. A lot has changed since then. He moved the entire Featured platform over to a revived brand called Connectively, and relaunched Featured itself as an AI co-pilot for PR. Brett, I've got a ton of questions about that switch. Welcome to the show. Real quick, why don't you briefly introduce yourself and just give us a very brief overview of what happened, and we'll dive deeper into all the craziness that's happening in your world right now.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for having me. There's three brands. There's Featured, there's Help Reporter Out, and there's Connectively. As you mentioned, Featured is a co-pilot for public relations professionals. What's a co-pilot? We essentially help PR pros find media opportunities, submit pitches, and get their clients featured in the media. So pretty simple in regards to that. Definitely can dive deeper there. Hero is Hero. It's same service since 2008. It's a 3 times a day email newsletter that connects journalists with sources for stories. And Connectively is essentially Hero in a platform. It allows you to surface and search through all these different journalist requests across Connectively, across Help Reporter Out, other sources. It also has some different features like finding podcasts and finding byline article opportunities, and a whole lot more. So those are the three brands all working in conjunction and in support of each other, and excited to bring it back and bring it to life.
Wow. All right, let's dive right into it. Let's talk about the big switch, Featured, Connectively, and the AI co-pilot. Let's talk about the logistics and strategy behind moving the platform. Let's dive into it. Walk us through what actually happened. The Featured app moved to Connectively US, and featured.com became something new, I believe, on June 2nd. You said only the name, logo, and URL changed, but you migrated every opportunity, profile, and subscription. What was the hardest part of pulling that off without breaking the experience?
Yeah, so just for clarity, so for the last 4.5 years, we've operated featured.com as, the journalist request platform, and where publishers can request content, journal and sources can answer those queries to get featured in the media. And so in regards to the only thing changing being the name, logo, and URL, we wanted continuity for our customers. We wanted to be able to take their exact experience, not mess up anything for them. And the only thing that would change would essentially be the URL that they would be able to access. So we thought that that was really important to be able to not disrupt the workflows of the subscribers who rely on us. So we just picked that up. We put it over to connectively.us. And now customers are, pretty seamlessly able to continue that workflow. And then what inspired Featured is really what we've learned over the last 4.5 years, which is there's a couple problems that our customers consistently face. One is not enough media opportunities, and the other one is not enough time. And so we wanted to rethink how featured.com could support PR professionals, in-house communications pros, SEOs, do-it-yourself small business owners. And we thought that the best thing to do would be to expand the number of media opportunities from about roughly 1,000 at any given time on Connectively to over 1 million. And the way that we wanted to reimagine that was, well, let's take in all of these different media opportunities across podcasts, across bylines, across GEO and AEO, across journalist requests, awards, speaking opportunities, all of these different things. Let's bring them into one simple chat interface that's powered by workflows so that our customers could get connect with more media opportunities and increase their visibility online.
Wow. Were there any hiccups? I mean, it was featured big platform, right? Making that move over. And is that something that you handled in-house, or did you get outside help?
No, just us. Just our team is a team of 7. We all can fit in a
Yeah.
minivan and go to lunch together if we wanted to.
Wow.
So, kudos to the team to make the migration happen really seamlessly, both from a technical perspective, from a communications perspective, because I was really surprised at how seamless it was.
Wow, good for you. That's amazing. So Connectively was Cision's attempt to replace Hero, help a reporter out, and it got shut down in, I believe, late 2024. You bought the name and brought it back. Why was that brand worth reviving instead of folding everything into Featured?
Yeah, I thought, it goes back to the continuity for customers of being able to say, all right, rather than just replace everything that you've relied on and enjoy, why don't we just preserve that? And so we looked at our domain list on GoDaddy and said, all right, what do we got? Yeah, well, there's connectively.us just hanging out there, and there's some associated authority and brand recognition with that. So ultimately we said, that's a perfect domain. Like, why don't we just, and it's also really in line with what Connectively once was for customers who do remember the Connectively experience in 2024. So it was a pretty natural migration and decision.
Awesome. So Featured is core to how we build EEAT, experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness for clients. When a platform where we depend on rebrands, we pay attention. What should agencies and business owners know so they're not caught off guard?
What should they know about what?
If they do a rebrand, like any advice, did you learn anything in terms of,
I'm laughing because we started out as
Yeah, I
Turkle.io,
remember
and then
that.
and then we went to featured.com, and then we've rebranded Connectively. So I know a little bit about this. The when doing a brand migration, I think it's really important to preserve the SEO equity that you've got within your URLs, and same thing with the AI visibility. So just doing your 301 redirects, and making sure that crawlers can continue to find and understand the content. With the Turkle.io to feature.com, that was a complete site migration. So
Yeah.
you within Google Search Console, it's submitting that is a site migration, and to reflect it accordingly. Usually, I think for us, took probably about 3 months for it to fully recognize. Sometimes it could take up to 6, based off of other experience that I've had on the agency side. But with Featured to Connectively, Featured is still an existing domain. And so we wanted crawlers to naturally find the redirected content. So it's just pointing those 301 redirects to the new content, and then, communicating to Google Search Console that both domains exist, and trying to also influence, stuff that could be cited by LLMs so that they too can understand what brand does what, and how it all fits.
Yeah. So it's something we never recommend to our clients, right? Because it can be a nightmare scenario where you're right, it can take up to 6 to 9 months for Google to re-index, crawl, re-rank all that content. When I got the information, the notification that you made that switch, when I do a search for my name, Chris Raulf, my bio on featured.com used to show up right away on page 1 in the SERPs. And immediately, actually, connectively, my bio showed up. So you guys did a really good job with this undertaking. So kudos to you.
Yeah, thanks. I think props to Google.
Yeah. Well, they're getting better and better at dealing with that type of situation. So, I mean, I think that's what they need to do. All right. So let's talk about why a local plumber, electrician, etc., belongs in the news. Let's talk about making the case that earned media is for local operators, not just big brands, and how the AI copilot removes the time barrier. So first question, here's the objection I hear constantly, right? So most of our clients are local service businesses. Let's say a plumber in Denver or a real estate team in Scottsdale says, I'm not a media person. Journalists don't want to hear from me. Please make the case. Why is that owner actually a perfect candidate to get quoted?
Yeah, I think that it starts with the why. Why even engage in that type of activity? And it starts with being visible for your customers. And so you think about, how do your customers discover your services? Well, it used to be going to the internet and going to Google and searching for Denver plumber. And now increasingly it's turning to Claude, it's turning to ChatGPT and say, hey, give me the best recommendations for plumbers that are near me. And the with LLMs, you're seeing that the citations are coming from earned media. And so if you want to be cited in relevant prompts that relate to your products and services, then you need to be featured in the media. And then in terms of why you're actually qualified to be featured, I think that the thing that we've learned over hundreds of thousands of users is that everyone's an expert in something. Everyone has knowledge to share about their business, whether that's on a hyper local level or whether that's in general. And so I think that the thing that we've learned, from journalists and publishers as well, is that they want to receive that knowledge when they want to receive that knowledge. If they're working on a story where they need a local Denver plumber, then great. Like, be the local Denver plumber that's readily available to help with that story.
Yeah. And I mean, we implement this strategy for, I think, all of our clients, and it's working extremely well, especially with getting into the large language models. Even like for us, we're heavy users of your platforms. We are now getting, I think, up to 50% of all the leads that I talk to. I ask them, and they're like, oh, we found you in ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini. So it's something that's super important. Definitely want to highlight that. So the number one reason local business owners don't do PR is time, right? They're on a job site, not refreshing a browser. You told me the AI Copilot cuts that time by up to 95%. Walk us through how that actually works for a local business operator, or any tips or best practices you can share.
Yeah, with feature.com, there's workflows, and workflows essentially function as your always on PR assistant. So the reason why a local Denver plumber is not going to be featured in the media is because they don't have time to monitor all the opportunities. And so what workflows do, it's an always on 24/7 PR assistant that's looking at all the different media opportunities that exist. It's filtering out the ones that aren't a good fit, and it's surfacing the ones that are in pretty much real time. And so now that Denver plumber could essentially get a notification to say, hey, like, the Denver Post needs a Denver plumber and here's their query. You can respond. And so it's surfacing out all of the noise and all of the monitoring that typically takes hours for folks to do, and which frankly is a little fatiguing to open the Harrow email 3 times a day and be like, there's nothing there for me. Eventually you just lose hope. So our goal is to cut through all of that and just connect people with the right opportunities.
Awesome. So we run on human-driven AI-assisted content. That's the core of our micro SEO.ai platform. You've always said, keep a human in the loop, and it doesn't matter that the first draft was AI. Why is that review step non-negotiable, especially for a small owner or business owner putting their name on a quote?
I think that any kind of just AI generated content and information without a human in the loop is the baseline. And journalists and publishers want more than the baseline. They want something that's unique, that's going to give some interesting insights to their readers. And in order for that to be accomplished, you need to have a human review before it actually gets sent over to a publisher or a journalist. That said, I think that it's like increasingly crazier and more powerful to be able to take an existing knowledge base within an AI system and to give an initial first draft to fill in the blank space. One of the things that, it's writer's block. it's hard to write when there's a blank page that is staring at you. Like, how do you fill this up? And so AI can essentially give you a starting point to ignite some different thoughts that you might have not thought of otherwise, and, get you across the finish line. So I think that that's really important, as long as it's not just an automated sequence that's just manually, because that's spam.
Yeah.
That's plain and simple, just spamming journalists with stuff that you're not reviewing. It's really important to have that human in the loop on both ends of the marketplace.
Awesome. All right, so let's talk about why this actually ranks. Let's talk about the direct connection between earned media and ranking in both traditional search and AI answers in platforms like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini. Let's talk about why this moves the needle. In my own experience, within 6 to 8 months of using Featured heavily, the old Featured, my content started ranking on page one, sometimes within 24 hours. I kid you not. What's the mechanism behind that?
Well, I think it's humans. I think that, to your point, the EEAT acronym came out, I don't know when, 2018, something like that.
Yeah.
And the reason why I think it was initially implemented is, again, that baseline that now in 2026, as we're doing this podcast, you can do AI generated content, but is there a reliable human being that's cited in there? That's, I think, necessary for readers. I think it's necessary for crawlers to be able to recognize that this goes above the baseline, and associating a human with that content is an incredible signature that can't really be fraudulent in that sense. It's almost like how when Google initially came out with the what was it, like back rub or something like that?
Oh yeah, in 95. Yeah, that's when I got into SEO. They
Yeah,
were
like
called back. That's how old I am.
back at Stanford, they
Yeah.
came up with this incredible thing that backlinks are a good signal that are it's hard to manipulate, and a human signature and attribution is also a pretty powerful signal. So I think that that's why you see so many expert quotes and articles that feature real human expert insights is starting to gain traction in 2026. It's because it's hard to manipulate.
Yeah. On that note, experience is the first letter in EEAT: experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness, right? And it's the one thing AI cannot fake at this point, at least. For a local owner, business owner, 25 years in their trade, that lived experience is their unfair advantage, right? So I frequently talk with small local service business owners. They have written a book, they have so much experience. Like, what is holding them back, or what kind of advice would you give them to do? They're busy, running their business. What are three things that they should do right now?
Yeah, I think that it's number one, giving AI context about your experience. So if you've written a book, can you upload the PDF and the manuscript and help AI understand where that experience is coming from and where that expertise is derived? So having some good context is a good foundation. And then I think that, using a platform like feature.com to set up a workflow that takes that context and applies it to a matching and monitoring system. That eliminates 95% of the time spent trying to find opportunities that you could qualify for. And then the third part of it is just take action. If you can find a system that you trust that does a reliable, um, you know, good service of matching you with media opportunities and gets you that initial draft and starting point, then I think that ultimately it's up to you to take it across the finish line and press submit.
Awesome. So on that note, I think you got a confidence score in the recommendation engine that weights experience, expertise, job title, company authority in your systems. For a local business owner, what makes them actually get picked and passed to a journalist? Can you reveal a little bit of the back end of your system?
A lot of it's just based off the EEAT acronym. So is the answer talking about earned experience that the person has? Do they have the actual credentials, actual expertise that the journalist is looking for? Is it authentic in the sense that they didn't just use 100% AI to generate it and they actually wrote some of it? And then can it be trusted? Like if you're looking at the linking URL of the company, if you're looking at some of the meta descriptions behind the site, if you're looking at all these other different signals that you could factor into, can this person actually be trusted to have a copy and paste type of quote into an article? There's a lot of different signals that go into it, but the main framework is around the EEAT.
Yeah, so it really doesn't sound like rocket science, right? A lot of common sense that can be applied by anybody to get success, with this effort here. Let's talk about the playbook and the future. The future. Let's talk about the near future. That's how far I can think these days. Let's talk about how to operationalize this for local clients, the biggest mistake to avoid, and where local media is headed. So, the biggest mistake you flagged last time when we spoke was treating this like a numbers game, spray and pray. The selective firms that only respond when their client is truly the best person to answer get the highest success rates. How does a local business owner, stay that disciplined? And realistically, how much time should they budget per week now that the AI co-pilot does the heavy lifting?
Yeah, consistency is key. And that's also the scarce resource that a local business owner has in terms of time.
Yeah.
So I think that the key to success is acting on opportunities when they present themselves and making sure that you have assistance to get those opportunities. Now, that assistance could come through AI, it could come through a platform like Featured, it could come through an agency, it could come through an intern that you hired, but you need some help to be a filter. And then the time that's allotted, if you have good assistance, then that's 15 minutes a day. It's essentially reviewing the information, refining the final draft, and pressing submit. So I think that, yeah, if you're serious about increasing your visibility online, then allotting 15 minutes a day and setting your workflows to structure themselves to align with that time block is the smartest move that any small business owner can do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. On that note, I got quoted in Forbes isn't a business outcome by itself. How should a local service business actually track whether earned media is producing leads and revenue? Because that's what we care about, right? Leads and revenue.
Yeah, I think it's leaning on your assistant again. So again, if you have an agency, it's leaning into their reporting and their expertise and seeing if things are moving the needle. Because again, if you go back to the Denver plumber example, like how is that person supposed to to know what's working and
Yeah.
monitor their AI prompts and their citations and all these different things. So I think it's leaning back on your assistant. I think that, for platforms like ours, we try to do our best to equip people with reporting and some understanding behind those. But at the end of the day, I think that it's leaning on your assistant, having some reporting within that assistant, and then trying to make determinations. Like you said, you mentioned that like 50% of all of your inbound leads, you ask them, how did you hear about us? And usually the qualitative measurements on whether it's something that's working or not, that's usually more meaningful than some of the quantitative stuff.
Absolutely. So you're long-term optimistic on local news because AI can monitor city council meetings, police reports, etc. For a local business, more local publications means more places to get cited. Paint a picture of what that looks like in 2 to 3 years. Is that too far away or in the near future?
Yeah, I think that news gets hyper local as AI becomes more of a monitoring and helpful tool for newsrooms. So I think that it's gone through a really tough, rocky stretch where business models have had to be reinvented on the media level, and I think that that'll start to stabilize, and you'll start to see a lot of media entrepreneurs leverage these tools and be able to report in credible ways on the local level. A lot of where that credibility is going to come from is from local sources. And so I think that there's a really cool opportunity that exists within the media landscape to go hyper local, to rely on not only hyper local news sources, but also hyper local experts. And that should be a very informative, helpful place for people to start their day to turn for their news.
Awesome. Let's round this conversation out by talking about spam and trust problems. AI detection through pangram on every pitch. I think you said about 21% of all pitches were 100% AI generated. Where that was back in February, I think. Where does that number sit now?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say roughly the same. We see
Okay.
about 35% of all journalists opt out entirely of AI pitches, and we see about 21% of all pitches are fully AI generated.
Okay. For a local small business owner, how do they make sure their AI assisted pitch reads as generally theirs and doesn't get flagged?
I think it's just human in the loop. I think that we talked about how, personally speaking, I think that the initial first draft of an AI generated pitch is a good place to start, but you ultimately need some sort of human review to say, hey, either this is my stamp of approval and I fully endorse every single word that is here, great, submit, or it's like, you know what, this isn't actually true, or you know what, I would add extra to this portion of the answer, just refining it so that ultimately it could be submitted. I think that that's the best practice.
Awesome. Hey, let's do a quick rapid fire round here. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Early bird or night
It's
owl?
definitely early.
Early bird. Nice. Work from home or work from an office?
Absolutely office.
Wow.
I
Read
got
the
three kids, man. I got three kids and an
Yeah,
ankle biting dog and three backyard chickens, and no way.
I hear you. Read the book or watch the movie?
uh, almost neither these days. Book.
All right, cool. Brett, this has been another great conversation. You've taken something that used to feel like it was only for big brands, seriously, and made it generally doable for a local plumber, electrician, real estate agent. And the AI co-pilot piece is going to change how a lot of busy owners approach this. Where can people find you and learn more about you guys?
Yeah. First of all, that's a hell of a legacy. I think that that's actually why we started the company, was
Yeah.
to level the playing field so that anyone can share the knowledge that they have. So I love that you picked up on that. I love that you flagged that. I love the conversation today. You could find more about Featured at featured.com. You could sign up to Connectively at connectively.us, and you could sign up for Haro at helperreporter.com.
Awesome. Hey, Brett, thanks again. I hope we'll talk again soon. Everybody listening to this podcast, thank you so much. As always, stay safe and healthy. Chris Raulf here, founder of Boulder SEO Marketing, and over at Chris Raulf AI SEO. Brett, thank you so much. We'll hopefully talk soon again.
Thanks
Bye,
again, Chris.
everybody. Thank you.